Welcome back to another episode of Crawfordsville Connection. I'm your host, Sarah Summer, and today I'm live in the studio with Mayor Todd Barton.
Live.
Can
Here
you
we
believe
are.
it?
Yeah, it's hard to believe.
I know. It's
a little scary, huh?
Yes. Yes. Well, we have a very special episode with our WBTV students. So I'm going to go ahead and just kick it over to them, and they'll take it away.
It's their show.
Yes. Awesome. Go ahead.
Cool. So we are the WBTV students. My name is Carter Hanna, and I'm joined by
Tristan Newland.
And Carter Simmons.
And before we get started, I would like to give a special shout out to our audio technician, Nathan. So let's just get into it. So we wanted to start off by asking you about, your earlier days.
Yeah.
Before.
Long time ago.
Yeah. Well,
when I was your age?
yeah, sure.
Yeah, okay.
So just kind of like, obviously, you grew up in Wingate.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So
up until I was in high school.
right.
Yeah.
You want to tell us a little about that?
No, it was great. Growing up in one of the small towns was really good, and I think it clearly helped shape who I am today.
Right.
Everybody knew everybody, and you learned about honesty and certainly hard work and teamwork and being a good neighbor and all that stuff. So I have great memories of growing up in one of the small towns like that.
Yeah.
Pretty fun.
That's cool. Tell us about kind of like your high school experience. Like, what was going to high school there? Like?
Yeah, interesting. I'll say that. How's that? So,
Right.
So freshman and sophomore year, I was at North Montgomery, and then we moved, and then I finished out junior and senior year at Crawfordsville High School.
There you go.
So politically, that's a very good thing, right? You go to school
Right.
with two-thirds of the people in the
there you
county. But I will say I was an average student in high school.
Average.
I was kind of bored with high school.
Right.
I wanted to get out and get on with life and do the things I wanted to do. So yeah, I was just that average student moving through. I wasn't really didn't get that spark until after high school that I really wanted to excel and exceed. So.
What kind of jobs were you thinking about in high school?
Oh, I knew I wanted to be a firefighter.
Really?
I mean, I was very focused on that. I wanted to get out. I wanted to be a firefighter and probably a paramedic. And yeah, so let's just get high school behind us and go on with life, right? It was kind of my approach at the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Were your parents very supporting of that, or what kind of jobs did they like? What were
Well,
they
they were
into?
both in public safety and involved in law enforcement.
Oh,
And my father
there
was
you
a
go.
police officer, so yeah, he was very supportive of me becoming a firefighter and not a police officer. Yeah, you go become a firefighter.
Yeah.
Those guys have great jobs, and so yeah, no, they were very supportive of that.
That's
awesome.
cool.
That's nice. And then, so obviously, we know that you are a Wabash graduate. Correct?
Yeah. So
Can you tell us a little about that?
yeah, well, like I said, in high school, I was kind of that average student, and then after high school is where it really, I guess I was a late bloomer, right? So
Yeah.
that's where it really started to take off, and I developed that passion and that desire. After becoming a member of the fire department, realized, oh boy, I could do some other things, but I really need to go back and get a degree and things like that. So had gone through the paramedicine program and did really well there, and knew that I had that ability and that capability. And so, first time I applied to Wabash College, I didn't get in because my high school record was just average, right? It wasn't anything to brag about, and it wasn't bad, don't get me wrong, but it just was average.
Right.
And so I went into classes elsewhere at some of the state schools just to prove that I could perform at that level. Did very, very, very well there, and then came back and applied to Wabash and was able to do it. So, it was just that realization that a couple of things you have to keep in mind. As a firefighter, it's kind of like being a professional athlete. Like if one thing goes wrong, your career's over, right?
Oh,
If
yeah.
you mess up a knee or your back, something like that happens, you better have a fallback plan.
Right.
And I realized that I needed that. So I wanted to round myself out and was able to go to Wabash and do that, which was
That's awesome.
a fantastic experience for me. It was tough.
Yeah.
It was very
Right.
tough. You had to go to school full time.
Yeah.
I still worked full time.
was
Had
a
a
struggle.
family. Yeah, it was, and I was able to do it in 3 years. I mean, that was the key for me, is to cut a year off to save that. You can pay tuition by the semester. So if I cut a year off, so I loaded up my schedule extra heavy the whole time.
Was that ever scary being a firefighter?
Yeah, well, there were times that things would happen, and it was always the realization. My first couple of years on the job, had to go to several funerals, in the
Wow.
Indianapolis area for firefighters who had died in the line of duty. So that reality smacks you in the face, and
Oh, yeah.
and there were always certain instances where things had happened. But you were confident, in the team you were on, and you were confident in your training, and all those things, and you're reducing the odds of something bad happening. I think the bigger part of it was just the reality that you face every single day in that role. You see life and death every single day. It's on some level, and that really drives things home for you. That there are a lot of priorities you need to think about in your own life because nothing's guaranteed for sure.
Do you find yourself being driven by like helping people based on like your past jobs and job now?
Yeah, I think so to a certain degree. I mean, that reality that, we have a great community and it can always be better.
Yeah.
One of the things I like most about being mayor is the ability to help people when people are frustrated with the system. They don't feel like they're getting anywhere, and you can like push a few things and make things happen and fix the problem for them. That's very rewarding for me.
I bet a lot of people are thankful.
Yeah, I'm sure they are when you're in that situation because they're just so frustrated sometimes with the system. They just get so frustrated trying to fight it, and then you're able to sort through it for them and make something happen, get some resolution.
Do you find yourself coming to a lot of like festivals like the Strawberry Festival or like the Fish Fry in Waytown?
Yeah, you do a lot of things as mayor. You go to a lot of stuff. Let's say that.
Right.
And you have to remember that everybody's event is important to them. So you try to get to as many things as you can. But at some point you have to strike some balance too. And, like, okay, this Saturday I need to just like unplug from everything. I said a couple weeks ago my goal for that weekend was to not be the mayor for a couple of days. Now, that's not really going to happen, but just kind of unplug from it from a little bit. But you do attend a lot of things.
Right.
We're kind of using that to build a bridge into our next question. What's like a regular off day look like for you?
An off day?
Like what would you do if you had an off day?
Well, it depends. I mean, a lot of times what people perceive as an off day is really not totally an off day. Right. So like last weekend's an example. Saturday I had I think 3 events that I had to get to. So it was kind of a mix of doing what I wanted and then
doing what you had to
get
do.
Dressed and go to the other things. So but if I have just a day off, you're probably going to find me in blue jeans and in the hoodie sweatshirt and in my pickup truck just I don't know, doing whatever I want.
Right. Yeah. There you go.
Or working in the yard, just that kind of stuff.
There you go.
Do you have any like favorite sports, or like do you come to any like the sports in like South, Crawfordsville, or North?
Yeah, well, so with all 3 of my children playing sports in high school, obviously I was very involved there. So both my daughters were very involved in volleyball and softball, and my youngest daughter was on the dance team at Crawfordsville, so I was always at all that stuff. My son, tennis and golf and those things. So a lot of that, I'm a little bit more removed from it now. They've all graduated high school, so we still try to get to some things here and there, but definitely enjoy basketball and football. Of course, Wabash basketball and football is on my list as well.
Right. Well, I did want to ask you, if, obviously being the mayor of Crawfordsville, if you had like any favorite projects that you've worked on over the years.
Yeah, that's a tough one.
Yeah.
There's been so many,
Right.
and when you pick out a favorite, I mean, everybody's going to say, well, what about this? What about that?
Right.
I think for me, it's just the accumulation of all of them. And when you look at it in totality, we've actually had a request for an upcoming podcast episode of our own to do a look back at everything that we've done over the last decade or so. And when you start putting that list together, it gets pretty long. So how do you prioritize and say this one was more important than the others? Because they're all really important to the overall picture.
Yeah.
For me, I think it's just the sense of where we are as a community today versus where we were at a decade ago. It's very different. We're in a very different spot. Very different things are happening, and it's all of those individual projects and accomplishments coming together to get us to that point.
Right.
But yeah, it's fun when you walk around on a daily basis and you see the projects and think, wow, we made that happen. Like Pike Place next door, Fusion 54, where we're sitting right now.
Right.
Those are all examples of that.
Did you always want to become mayor when you were working for like the fire station or
No.
in Indianapolis?
No.
Did it just kind of like come up to you?
No.
What kind of pushed you into that?
Yeah, so I've always been intrigued by the process, right? So I remember even in high school, I was intrigued by social studies and history and those kind of things and how government works. But it was really a matter of, having worked for the city for all those years, so I had 26 years at the fire department.
Right.
And always striving to be the best and push to improve the department and what we're doing and everything. And I can recall, I don't know how many times, countless times of, going in to meet with mayors and saying, hey, if we did this, we could accomplish so, and and go down the list, and always trying to convince them to do things differently or
Yeah.
what I thought was better.
Right.
And so, in the end, for me, I felt like I was reaching the end of my career in the fire service just because it's a physical young
Yeah.
person's game.
Yeah.
How can we make the community better? And that was the drive for me. So at Wabash, I was a political science major, which was a natural fit for me. I was intrigued by all of it. I loved it. And at one point, I ran for city council and won. And the mayor-elect at the time asked me to be the fire chief. So I didn't take the city council seat.
Yeah.
Decided to serve as fire chief instead. And then, a lot of people had always said, oh, you're going to run for mayor someday. And that really, truly wasn't my plan.
Yeah.
But, as it came down to it, I really had a choice. I could retire from the fire department and go on and do other things, or I could stay here and try to fix Crawfordsville, and take it to the next level. And I decided that's what I was going to do. So that's why I ran. I love Crawfordsville. Bottom line.
There you go.
Was it crazy when you got elected in 2011?
It was crazy.
It was
Yeah.
crazy.
It was
Like-
crazy running. It was crazy when you got elected.
Exciting.
But I think I had an advantage because I had been involved in the process so many times.
Yeah.
I'd been I want to say totally on the inside of that process, but I had enough exposure to it that I think I had realistic expectations of what was going to happen. And you have, from the time you get elected in November, you've got a pretty short window there to build your team, get everything in place, and be ready to hit the ground running, on January 1st. So I had a plan in place to do that, and we moved through that. I think we did a pretty good job. We missed on a few things, and that's
Yeah.
going to happen. But you just continue to learn and learn and learn. And I tell everybody the first 4 years was pretty rough. I mean,
Yeah.
it's not easy, and you're trying to adjust to that. And it kind of comes at you from all directions in the beginning until you really get your hands around it.
Right.
Right.
I think it's pretty interesting.
Yeah, and I
That's-
enjoy working now. I get to spend time sometimes with newly elected mayors in other cities, and try to help guide them through that process of, just reality is this is what you have to face and what you have to deal with and how you can approach. I'm not going to tell you what decisions to make, but this is how you can kind of work through the process of
Right.
making decisions.
Do you find it hard to choose one thing over another, or just making decisions for Crawfordsville in general?
Well, you have thousands of people with differing opinions,
Yeah,
right?
right.
And you have all these different interests and different competing
So many
interests.
perspectives.
And for me, it's just about finding that balance, right? What makes the most sense for the community as a whole as we move forward. You're not going to make everybody happy with every decision.
Yeah.
You know that.
Right.
But if, in the end of the day, if it's what moves this community forward, and it's a solid, sound decision that I can, go to bed at night and sleep on, and then I think we made the right call. So I just, I try to reason it through some of those really tough decisions. My rule of thumb is, I need to think about this for a few days. I need to sleep on this. And for me, that's such a contrast from my former career. As a paramedic, you make decisions in seconds, and you have
Yeah.
to make life and death decisions in seconds. There are profound implications from your decisions, one way or the other, that you have to make very quickly. I don't have to do that as mayor. So we've got, even if I have an hour, that's a long time in my former world to make a decision. So,
Yeah.
so we have time to reason it out and think through it.
Do you like that it's a little less stressful? I mean, not saying that being a mayor
It's a
isn't
different kind of
stressful, but
stress. Yeah, it's a different
Right.
kind of stress.
Right.
But you missed kind of that,
The rush.
the rush, the excitement of what you did before at times too.
Do you find yourself kind of when people from fire departments come up to you and ask if you could do something for them, do you find yourself being more able to give them better answers because you were in their shoes not so long ago?
Well, I think it's certainly helped me on the public safety side for sure. And I think again I'd bring a different approach to being mayor because I worked for the city for so many years.
Yeah.
And my first city job was actually not at the fire department; it was at the wastewater department. So I started there, and I was only there 6 months, but it gave me that understanding of the utilities and how they operate and stuff like that before I went to the fire department. So I think that gives me a different perspective. A lot of times, most of the time, somebody becomes mayor, they run the city council first. So they don't have that inside day-to-day operations thing. But it is nice to have a little bit of background there that you can fall back on when you're talking about public safety issues. You know, it's not a foreign language to you. You know what's going on. Now, I'll be the first to tell you a lot's changed, you know, in the 12 years since I retired from that. So
Right.
I always have to take that into consideration. You know, they'll be talking about something. I'm like, wait a minute, what? You know, and well, this standard has changed and that has changed, and it evolves over time. But yeah, it's very helpful.
What about if you never became mayor? Is there any other jobs you were interested in or like wanted to do?
Well, I was doing a lot of consulting
Alright.
at the end of my career at the fire department, and basically consulting on what we call incident management. So how a community or an organization deals with a real crisis situation. Because
Okay.
if you think about what the fire department does, that's kind of what it is,
Right.
right? So, you know, a lot of my work was actually with school corporations, you know, and if you have something very massively tragic in your school corporation, how do you manage it, and how do you move forward and create a plan, you know, from that point? After 9/11, the federal government had mandated that all communities have the same plan, the plan that fits together, right? So everybody's playing from the same playbook. And that was a system that I was very familiar with, and that I taught a lot. And so I was able to consult with school corporations and public health agencies and groups like that, you know, how to create plans for themselves that fit with the national system that allowed them to interact in a successful way with fire and police and the local elected officials and so on. So if I wasn't mayor, that's where I was headed, was to just do that all the time, which I decided to stay here and work on
Right.
Crawfordsville.
That's great.
Do you have any regrets being the mayor?
Oh boy. Some days I ask myself, no, I don't. I mean, I wouldn't change anything. I would have, you know, as far as running for mayor, absolutely would do that again. You know, certainly there are things that you do and you think back and think, well, we could have done that differently or better or something like that. I mean, you learn all the time. So there are little things we would tweak, but no, I wouldn't say I have any regrets. Yeah.
Is there any like new projects or anything in the future you might want to have done? Like any additions or anything?
Yeah, there's a massive amount of stuff going on right now. I mean,
Really?
it's just, when you look at the projects right now, we're building all these neighborhood parks.
Oh,
We're
yeah.
building new roadways on the south side. We have new housing developments coming, new apartment developments coming, new businesses coming on the what we call the economic development side. We've been
Mhm.
very successful there. Hundreds, if not over 1,000 new jobs coming in the next few years.
Oh, that's good.
So a lot of growth, and it's all, you know, many years of trying to build that foundation, and now it's really starting to take off. So we are very busy now, and we know it's going to stay that way for a while.
I mean, it's great.
That's so cool, having like your hand on that many projects. Like, do you feel like proud of that?
No, we're proud of it, I think,
Right.
but it's also scary, right? Because
Right.
you're constantly thinking, oh my gosh, I have to make sure that, you know, we get this done and we get that done and something doesn't fall through the cracks, or this is over budget, where am I going to pull the money from to make it happen? All those kind of things. It's
Right.
a lot to balance and juggle, and obviously I don't do all that by myself. We have a great team,
Yeah.
so
That's awesome.
great team makes it happen.
Right.
Very proud of Crawfordsville.
Very much so.
This
Yeah,
is your
no,
city.
that's why I ran. I think Crawfordsville's a great community, and at the time I felt like we were on the wrong path, that I didn't want to see us decline further. And a lot of communities, you know, rural communities like ours are declining, and they're not growing in population. They're declining in population. They're not getting economic development, you know, not getting those projects and jobs. And I didn't want to see us go down that path. So
Yeah.
Crawfordsville's a great community because you have very caring people here. You know, good people, caring people. You have diverse industrial base. We do a lot of different things, make a lot of things in Crawfordsville. We have a tremendous amount of strengths here, and proud of that. And I spend a lot of time, I don't just talk about Crawfordsville or the city a lot.
Yeah.
You'll hear me say community a lot, because it is about the greater community. It's not just what happens inside the city limits. It's all of Montgomery County and surrounding areas, really.
Do you find yourself going to like other like counties and seeing what's going on there to get like a reference of
Steal
like,
ideas.
Yeah.
No, we look around a lot. You know, you try to read, try to follow what other places are doing. Some places are doing some really good stuff, and sometimes you're looking to see what went wrong
Yeah.
with something in another community. We're very involved in sharing and working with other communities. You know, one of my focus areas is innovation. I want to make sure we're doing new and different things. So we have like we call mobile integrated health, which is a really not only a statewide model but a national model of how you improve healthcare outcomes and lower cost. And so we spend a lot of time going to other communities to talk about that. I don't always go, but our team goes a lot. I mean, right now they probably are done today, but we have a team from the city, from the fire department in New Orleans, presenting at a national conference about what we're doing in Crawfordsville, Indiana. I mean, that's good stuff, and that's how you share information, and that's really gets Crawfordsville a lot of attention on the national stage. We've been very fortunate to get a lot of attention.
So obviously, being the mayor for so long, you've had a lot more experience than most people, right? So if you had to give us right here at this desk, or any youth listening now, one piece of advice, what would it be?
Well, I wish I was in your chairs. I tell you that. To be your age again, it would be awesome. I mean, there's so much opportunity right out there. I mean, the most important thing is to find out, really figure out what interests you. Where's your passion? What do you love to do? And take it and run with it. I mean, there is just unlimited opportunity in this community and this state and this world right now. You can do amazing things. You just have to find that thing that really interests you. Like I said, in high school, I hadn't really totally figured that out yet, but after high school I did, and it really ignited that passion for me. Yes, it was public safety, and it was the fire department, it was paramedicine, it was all that, but then I realized it was the community as a whole. Find that and just take it and run with it. And there are many different paths to success. I think sometimes we try to tell young people you have to go A to B to C to D. Maybe, but maybe not. Just find your passion and just go with it, because the sky's the limit right now. It really is. And I don't just say that. I believe that. If I was a young person today, there's so much opportunity.
Is there anything about like Crawfordsville, or not even just Crawfordsville, just like Montgomery County that you'd like to highlight or that you love about this county?
It's the teamwork and cooperation.
Teamwork?
That stands out. I mean, we hear that all the time when outside groups come here or we present about our community. They are blown away by the teamwork and cooperation that exists in this city, in this county, in this community. It is unique, and it's very noticeable to the outside world.
Really?
We kind of take it for granted here, but trust me, it doesn't happen everywhere. When you have the city, the county, the school corporations, industry, you have everybody pulling together to make things happen. And really, as I say, checking your ego at the door. We're all in this together. We're gonna make it happen. I mean, that's been something that I've pushed for from day one, and I'm very proud of where we're at in that process. Because, like I said, trust me, that doesn't happen everywhere, and it really is unique to our community, and it's driving some of our success. I mean, that's why we're able to land some of the new jobs and new investment, new business that we're landing, is because those leaders from corporate America, when they come and visit our community, they see that, and they know that if they invest here and there's a challenge, this community will rally together to create a solution.
Do you plan to retire?
I don't know. That's a good question. I honestly don't know the answer to that. I'm committed right now. So the rest of this year, and then I'll start another 4-year term after that. So I'm committed through that. I'm not a person who believes in quitting midterm and resigning and all that stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, unless you absolutely had to,
Right.
But other than that, so I'm committed through,
Yeah.
a few more years, and we'll see after that. I don't know. It's going to depend on what's going on in my life and health and everything else. I'm healthy now, but that could change. So,
Thinking about Hawaii?
yeah,
Think about going.
yeah, I don't know about that. We'll see. But I know that even if I do retire at some point, I'll have to do something. I'm probably not one that can just sit around.
Yeah.
So
Always gotta be.
got to have
on it.
something going on. Yeah, yeah.
That's great.
But it would be nice to lessen the schedule a little bit.
Yeah.
Right. So, I feel like most people get to see the mayor, city official, big, important business, but not a lot of people know Todd, So I wanted to ask you a couple questions, just about like you. So like, here's the first question.
All right.
So
we
if
go.
you go to the zoo, right, You go to
Oh
the zoo.
boy, I've been to the zoo in a long time.
What? That's funny. She said that you were going to say exactly that. So, you go to the zoo. What's the first animal that you're running to see?
Oh my. Probably the bears.
The bears.
The bears?
Yeah.
Why? Why the bears?
Bears. They're in control and then they take a nap.
Yeah.
And then they're in control
That's
and they take
pretty-
a nap. So
Sounds pretty good.
yeah, I always remember going to Indianapolis Zoo and the polar bears would swim. They would get in the water and swim up to the window and
Yeah.
paw at the window and stuff. Yeah,
That's cool.
yeah. That's a tricky question.
Right? Yeah. Another one. You're on a road trip. Okay.
Okay, that
Long road
happens
trip.
a lot.
Right.
We do a lot
Okay,
of travel.
that's perfect.
Yeah.
So you're driving, right?
Yeah.
You pull up at a gas station. You're like, man, I'm kind of thirsty and hungry. Blah blah blah.
Yeah,
You walk into that gas station. What's your go-to drink and what's your go-to snack?
yeah. If I need to keep going and I'm running out of energy, it's going to be a Coke,
Go.
and it's going to be a Snickers bar.
Boom.
Hands down, Snickers satisfies, keeps you going. That's a meal in a little package.
I know.
Right?
Buy you a few more hours.
So good.
Definitely.
Yep.
Well, do you have any favorite how do I word? What's like your favorite movie? If you had like a favorite movie or like favorite genre, like what do you watch or read or
Right.
do that like to entertain yourself?
What's going
Yeah.
on?
Yeah. Well, if it's movies, I mean, I like the older stuff. So, I mean,
Alright.
like The Godfather and some stuff
Great
like that.
movie.
Yeah.
Great movie.
I like to change the words around a little bit. You know, it's the Todd Father. So,
Right.
no, just kidding. Just kidding.
Todd Fu-
Yeah.
That is
no,
awesome.
Yeah.
That's great.
That's
no,
so
I like some
funny.
of that older stuff, but and I honestly I don't go. It's not like I go to theater and watch new release movies. I don't
Right.
really.
You go
do
to
that
the
much.
AMC a lot?
No, I don't know the last time I've been there. I hate to say that, but there's not time in the schedule to really go and do that.
Alright.
So,
Right.
you know, and then as far as reading, I mean, obviously I'm into anything related to history and government and stuff, and you try to look at some of that, and you know, there's just so much out there, but I try to really narrow it in on things that I think, you know, where people have tried to solve problems and they have solutions, they have ideas, and then I'll watch a lot of like documentary type TV stuff. I mean, I really enjoy that. And now with YouTube, you can find
Pretty much.
you can find anything you want
Yeah.
on any topic. Some of it good, some of it not so good. But just trying to really, you know, I'll just wonder about things. You know, like how does this work and how does that work? I just go learn more about it. You know, things not even related to the city or being mayor. You know, I've dug in recently. You know, trying to learn more about agriculture and farming and why do they do the things they do, which that was not my world, right? But you try to learn more about it. So, yeah.
Right.
What
And
about
what's your best way of going about that? Like learning, like broadening, I guess your horizon or whatever. You know, like
Right.
learning up on new subjects that you might not.
Yeah,
be.
it's typically sparked by something that's happened, you know, like
Right.
at work. Like we have a meeting with a company and I'm like, why are they talking about this? Or why is that important? Or they talk about something I have no idea what they're talking about.
Right.
And so then I'm like trying to dig into it to try to figure out more about that, which really pays off because if you learn some of that stuff, then you're able to have a better conversation with them and understand their, you know, what they're after if they're looking at your community, how you can make it better here for them, that kind of stuff. So, yeah.
Yeah.
And then anything involving, you know, obviously with the background a little bit in public, you know, with obviously public safety, but healthcare touched into that. I'm intrigued by all of that as well. So anything along those lines kind of catches my attention too.
Well, seeing as the Strawberry Festival is a big part of Crawfordsville, what's your favorite parts of the Strawberry Festival?
So, well, the favorite part by far is just seeing all the people. I mean, you see so many people there, and you have a chance to talk to people that you don't really see other times of the year. I'm not sure, they must hide until the festival, but it's just a chance to you know, mingle with people. I really enjoy the concerts at night, just watching, you know, people there enjoying themselves for free, having a good time, visiting with their friends and neighbors. You know, one of the things that you have to do as mayor is you introduce the royalty. That's always a lot of fun. We have a lot of fun with that. So, you know, it's elementary students and, you know, high school students, and you get to talk to them a little bit over the course of the weekend, you know, what are their interests and what are their plans and stuff like that. And it's just a fun weekend if the weather cooperates.
Right.
Doesn't always cooperate, but it is what it is.
Definitely. Well, as we come to a close, Todd, I would like to thank you for your service in
Thank
this
you.
community and
Thanks
your
for having
time as a
me on.
firefighter at the department. Very appreciated.
Yeah.
Will not go unnoticed. Once again, my name is Carter Hanna,
I'm Tristan Newland.
I'm Carter Simmons.
and once again, a special shout out to our audio technician, Nathan. Mr. Barton, thank you.
Thanks for having me on. You guys
Yes,
did a great
thank
job.
you for
Means a lot.
coming.
Thank
Great
you.
interview.
Had a great time.